Hello and welcome to Jeanna Brown Podcast, Smart Wisdom. Here we have another wonderful episode and can't wait to start sharing with you about ways to take care of your health. Today we have guest Coach K with us, and she's going to give you the nuggets, the gems, and the tools to keep your body right and things to look out for. Welcome, Coach K, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully you can still hear me. I messed with my headphones in between.
Can hear you great. Can
Awesome.
you
Good.
hear, audience? Can you hear? Okay, they say yes. Yes, they can hear you.
Awesome. Awesome. Great.
So,
So I'm
welcome to the show and thank you for being here. Um, we're going to just jump right in. You're in the mental fitness and health coaching industry. And as people get to know who you are, the first question I'd like to ask you is, you know, how does one start to go on this journey of coaching other people? What was it that prompted you to want to start?
yes, that's very good. For a lot of us, it seems it's the personal journey, and it was that for me as well. Personally experiencing a desire to feel better, a desire for change, and not being able to find someone to help you feel better or help you change. And especially in my circumstance, where I was raised in one of those brown rice, whole wheat bread kind of families where you think you're healthy, you think you're doing it all right, you're exercising. There was even a point where I was working out twice a day and I just felt terrible. And I got lucky that eventually I stumbled across functional medicine and I was able to go through that process and learn how I could heal myself. And I was like, this is wild. And why isn't everybody doing this? So I just wanted to share it with everyone.
Ooh, we're gonna have to unpack that. You just said a whole book right there. You were eating a certain kind of way, thought you were being healthy and choosing wise, healthy choices, and working out twice a day, and still tired. What?
Yes.
What? How did you learn that that was not healthy for you?
Well, it just kept getting worse and worse. So, to take it back a little bit, as a child, I remember being very tired, and my mom would tease me that I was a lazy baby and didn't even play with my toys. And then into the high school years, I remember having very, very strong, very painful, cycles. And my mom did not experience that at all, so she had no sympathy. Like, I don't know what's wrong with you. And so
Mm.
as it went on, like life just kept getting harder and harder. I even remember in college, I was working full time. I was going to college full time. I had two kids already, two little girls. And I remember being in my doctor's office and being like, I am so exhausted. Like, I'm beyond exhausted. And he was like, he just looked at me and went, you're a busy single mom. Of course you're tired. And him being the
Uh,
doctor, I was like, he's right. I am. I'm working full time. I'm in school
yeah.
full time. I went on out of the office. I asked no more questions. But each time I was pregnant, I was diagnosed with anemia, but there was never any follow up afterwards with that. And as life
Huh.
went on, and I just kept getting more and more tired, and you're trying to do all the things. I went vegan, I went paleo, I did the Atkins diet because I'm like, I'm not losing the baby weight, and all that kind
Mhm.
of stuff. That's how we got to the 2-a-days because that was like my last child. I have 5 kids that I've raised, and I got to the last child, and I'm like, I just cannot get rid of this weight. Maybe I need to go to the gym twice a day. That's what some of these fitness pros are doing, and
Right.
I'd be in and out of consciousness. I would be so exhausted. I would sleep for days. It was bad.
Mm.
Then I started having weirder symptoms where I'm crying for no apparent reason,
Mm.
where I'm having actual suicidal thoughts. And I'm like, this makes no sense because nothing has changed. Life is fine. Life's great. Got the kids, got the husband, got the house, the white picket fence, the American dream. So why am I hearing these strange things that my body wants me to do myself? I told no one because that's
Mm.
crazy. And you don't tell
Mm.
people you're crazy, right? You keep it to yourself. Um,
Mhm.
but the crying for no reason, that kind of stuff, my husband could see. I accidentally left the kid in the car in the garage once. That's terrible. Luckily, we figured it out quickly. Putting the keys in the freezer. Just, I was really, really losing my mental functions. And
Mm.
what was the trigger. But one day he was like, enough is enough. And he started calling like every doctor he could think of in the area, which I had been to many doctors over time, over the course of these almost 20 years, and asking, like, hey, I'm tired. I have this rash. I have this. I can't lose weight. And they're like, oh, you're fine. You're fine. Nothing's wrong with you. And he found a doctor that would see me that day and dragged me in. And luckily, she was an oncologist. She wound up testing me for everything she could think of and came back and said, you are severely iron deficient. If you were pregnant, I would hospitalize you right now with an iron IV. Um, and
Ooh,
so she
with the
started
iron
having me,
IV.
yeah.
Mm,
And I was like, okay. So I started going in there weekly and I would get these iron IVs. And towards the end of the week, I'd start to feel exhausted again. So about the third weekend, I was like, this is not going to cut it. I can't live life coming into the hospital every day to get iron IV. Like that's not
that's not
normal.
practical.
And yeah, and being exhausted again by the end of the week. So I got the iron IV, I've got the energy, I've got the wherewithal. So I started doing more research. And that's when I stumbled across functional medicine and fell into all the summits. And I'm watching all the health summits. And I was in a call with Bridget Danner. She's an amazing coach out there, and I got the chance to ask questions. And I was like, I'm having this symptom, and that symptom. What could this be? And she told me to go look up adrenal fatigue. She's like, go look into adrenal fatigue. That's what you have. And I'm like, never heard of this adrenal fatigue thing. And I went and researched it. And I don't remember the gentleman's name that he has a YouTube video out there though, but he's like describing the whole cycle of, and then you get tired at 3 o'clock in the evening, and then you have this energy spike, and it's the middle of the night, and now you can't go to sleep. And I'm like, that's my life. And it's exhausting. He's been watching me, he's been spying on me.
So you
And
get an energy spike. I have to stop you there. You get an
yeah,
energy spike while you're sleeping?
no, you're not sleeping because you're awake,
Oh,
because
in the
you're
middle of the night, though.
so like, a lot of us stay up till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And so maybe you would usually go to sleep around then, but that's when I would get the energy spike. So now I'm awake, I'm
Ah,
ready to clean the house, I'm ready to do everything at 10, 11 o'clock at night. 3 o'clock, I want to go to bed. 9 o'clock, I'm awake. Anything after 9, I would be wired.
would anything happen to your body or food or anything that would cause that spike so late? Like, what would change
Well, it's your
for that?
cortisol levels. My cortisol levels were out of sync. My circadian rhythm was out of
Mhm.
sync. So I'm getting the cortisol spike in the middle of the night instead of getting that cortisol spike when you're supposed to wake when you're waking up in the morning. So those when we're waking up in the morning, we feel tired for hours and hours and hours and hours, and we're like doing the coffee, we're doing the tea. That was me, the green tea, trying to get through the day. And then
Right.
by 3 or 4 o'clock, you're like, I'm done. I can't. I just want to go to sleep.
Mhm, mhm.
And then 9 o'clock at night, you're wide awake, and you can go all night, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and you just think I'm a night owl, quote unquote, right? So that was the cycle I was on. But as a mom, I was homeschooling and taking care of the kids, and I can't sleep during the day. I have to take care of little children, so I can't be a night owl, quote unquote. So yeah, he had some really great solutions. It was so simple, not easy, but so simple, and it was to go to bed before 9 o'clock, so you have to be in bed by 9 and to wake up at 5 a.m. So for night owls to wake up at 5 a.m. is crazy. I had to wake up at
To
5
wake
a.m.
up at 5 AM. Oh
Wake up
my
at
gosh.
5 a.m.
That
and get
seems like the
sunlight.
middle of the night.
I know.
At 5 in the morning,
It's
that's like,
still dark.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's still dark at 5 a.m. So I
So
started.
before you tell us what
Mhm.
happened and what the outcome was, we're gonna take a quick break, and we
Yeah.
can't wait to hear how that new regimen and new sleeping pattern, worked out for you. So we'll be right back after these quick moments. And welcome back. You are watching Jeanna Brown Podcast Smart Wisdom. And today we have Coach K sharing with us her her fitness, mental fitness, and health coach strategies. And she was just telling a wonderful story about how changing her sleep patterns and shifted, I'm guessing, improving her health. But she's going to finish this story because we're all on pins and needles to see, did this actually work? Going to bed at 9 p.m., that's early. And then waking up at 5 a.m., that's early. So,
Mhm.
Coach K, thank you for being here. And we can't wait to hear the rest of this story.
Yeah, yeah. So I did it. First, I had to get buy-in from the husband, of course, but he saw what I had gone through, and I found a friend that actually had a functional medicine doctor that they were seeing. So I was able to go and see that functional medicine doctor as well and get all of my lab results from them, and all of that too. So the sleep pattern thing was waking up at 5 a.m., getting outside if you can, and grounding, and looking at the sunrise as soon as possible. So all this woo woo stuff.
Woo woo stuff.
As a lot of people would say, woo woo, we're grounding, we're watching the sunrise, we're watching the sunset. It's really just resetting your circadian rhythm was the concept of what that was, and the cortisol levels. And there are ways that you can test like your temperature and things like that to kind of give you an idea if you're having a thyroid problem as well, which was something else I had tried before taking on this protocol. And this is just one
Your body
idea,
temperature or what?
your
Your
body temperature.
Oh, okay. If there's a thyroid.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I can't remember the numbers right now, but you can get a little chart. You can look it up for thyroid issues and see testing your temperature and see if that might be an indicator. If your doctor's saying you're fine, but you're like, I have all the symptoms of a thyroid problem, which is what I felt I had. And I had been told many times that my thyroid was fine until I went to the functional doctor. And the functional doctor was like, no, your thyroid, you need some help there. Um, I don't remember if there was anything else that he diagnosed me with, but I had already looked into ways that I could treat and correct my thyroid without taking the hormone therapy replacement. If you need to take that, that's great. Do it. Do what's best for you. But I knew I wanted to do things naturally. And so I
Hmm.
let him tell us everything he needed to tell us. I did not interject because I didn't want my husband to think, oh, you were leading him or something like that.
Right.
Because one of the things is that your thyroid and all of these things can be dysregulated due to stress in the body. And I don't know if your viewership is familiar with adverse childhood experiences, but that's something that you may want to look into. They show that a lot of us have these adverse childhood experiences, these trauma in our past that lead to us, having issues later on in life, whether it's health related or dealing with addictions and things like that. And for me, I was under this low grade level of stress my entire life. I had no idea how stressed I was until I came into this whole functional medicine area and started learning these protocols and learning about meditation and reducing your stress and all that. The first time I meditated, Gina, I was like, is this the way you're supposed to feel? Like, I always thought I was good. I was always I'm good, I'm good, I'm great girl, right?
Right.
After I meditated the first time, I was like, oh, wow. Like,
This is a
people
whole
really feel
different way of living.
a whole
Let me
different
tell you, I have experienced it, and it is a whole way of living. And I do want to hit on this point that you talked about, this low level, grade level of stress.
way.
And listening audience, we have to take care of ourselves. This is a serious thing, as Coach K is talking about how stress impacts our body. Can you imagine a high chronic level of stress all your life? So I've talked to many people who have that.
Mhm.
And you mentioned and touched on adverse effects of trauma when you're a child. I feel like, especially our community, we have a lot of this, and it goes undiagnosed, it goes untalked about, it goes um, untreated, and we need to like put a pin in it right now and listen to your body and go research for yourself, because once you can get this under control, meditation, chronic stress. This is the other reason why I do my art healing classes, to help release um, emotions. Another way to release the stress that impacts our body, and it starts to give us health challenges. So I'm passionate about this topic. Keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt
No,
you there, but we have to
that's
like just not gloss over. We really need to pay attention. Like, oh yeah, I did have a rough childhood. Oh, let me go to this meditation thing for free and check out what's going on. Maybe I'll really enjoy it. And then you realize, like, oh my God, I've been under stress so much. I feel like it's normal, and it's not. So keep going.
exactly, exactly. So stressed that you think how you feel is normal. That's where I was. And yeah, just another key point on that is the adverse childhood experiences. I know a lot of us think, oh, well, I wasn't abused, I wasn't this, I wasn't that, but it can simply be that feeling of detachment of you weren't, taken care of quite in a timely manner that you may have thought you wanted as a child or something like that. And just it's an interesting list to check out the adverse childhood experiences because they're not all as dramatic or extreme as we might think they are when we hear trauma in that realm. So yeah, so definitely getting the functional medicine doctor was like key. I had already, like I said, researched it and I knew what I was going to do. I had my plan ready, but I needed that buy-in from my family because it's really, really important when you're dealing with stress for everybody to kind of deal with it if you can. If you can't get everybody on board, you can't. But the more you can get, I think, the better. And luckily for me, I did have my husband's support, and he's sitting there and he's like, "I can't believe this doctor is saying she needs to de-stress. Like she's a stay-at-home mom. Like what stress? You're at home, you're taken care of. That's what the world thinks, right? You're
That
good."
is stressful in itself. Oh my God, to get all the little kids to sit and study at the same time, that's stressful. Like, has anybody worked with kids? Like, come on now.
I don't think they do. I don't think they do because they
It's
go,
like
"Oh,
they're
you're a
chatting,
mom. Oh,
they're
that's cute."
fidgety, they're like this, they're like that, they're like, "Eh," like 5 Chester cheetahs in the same little, you know what I mean? Like, ah.
Yes, yes. So that was lovely. And as I was going through and trying to help myself and working on the protocol that, my doctor and I had came up with together, which was a lot of him agreeing with what I wanted to do excitedly, like, yeah, you're going to eat this vegetable. Awesome. I think it was like broccoli or something we are talking about. I love broccoli anyway, so it was fine. But yeah, we went through the protocol, decided, that I needed to do these things to clear my health up. And I was able to do them because I was willing and I had already been trying everything else. Like I said, I'd gone vegan, I'd gone paleo. It's like, what's one more protocol? Let's try this one and see if it works. And it
Another
did.
key thing is you were willing. You have to be
Yes.
willing to change for anything to work, otherwise it's just not gonna work.
Yes, yes, you definitely have to be willing. And one of the points of being willing is seeing what is the opposite of the outcome. And for me, the opposite of that outcome was me no longer being around because my body was definitely fighting against me to
Mhm.
not be here. So I was like, okay, we got to do this. I've got kids to take care of, right? So hopefully it doesn't have to get that extreme for other people to make the choice to choose their health, choose their well being. The burgers and fries or whatever may taste great, but life and being able to live it fully tastes so much better. The sweetness of life.
So
So,
he suggested for you with the plan was the sleep change, pattern change, and then a diet change or modification.
yeah, there was a diet modification. I wish I could remember all of the details of it right now, but everybody's
That's okay.
different. I
Yeah.
had already gone dairy free. I had already gone organic. So
Mm.
it was like there wasn't much I needed to change. It's just some tweaks of making sure I was getting enough iron. A lot of people may have heard of like the blood type diet. And I think it's funny that I went vegan and it didn't work for me. It's personally for me. Some people it works great for, I guess. But I'm the blood type that actually needs red meat, supposedly. So I was like, oh, that's
Mhm.
interesting. I wonder how much validity there is to this diet. And I know a lot of other health coaches and things and programs I've looked at look at that diet as a first place to start with their clients. So I was like,
I
if I
like
had
it.
just paid
I
attention,
personally
I'd
do
read it
because
before.
I'm the one that doesn't need the meat. I
Hmm,
don't need
hmm.
the meat, and I had already eliminated the meat. I'm a pescatarian.
Yeah,
And so, but I don't advocate and say, "Oh, everyone needs to eliminate the meat." That's
yeah.
not the case. You need to kind of know what your body can take and then go with that. So anyway, keep going.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that. I totally through this experience and having 5 kids also, like, wholeheartedly believe that there is no one perfect diet for all of us. There's the you diet, and I help my clients get on the diet for them. It's not a diet, it's just the way that they eat and the way that they live life that works for them. So whether it's keto or vegetarian, vegan, it doesn't need a name. It's the Gina diet, you know what I mean? It's the K diet. Like, that's the one we're on.
I love that. I
Yeah,
love that. I
yeah.
hate food labeling. Are you a vegetarian, pescatarian, blah, blah, ah,
Yes.
pooey.
Yeah. Throw the dogma out the window and find what works for you. And that was the main thing for me was just continuing to search. I had kind of given up. So I'm glad my husband hadn't because if he hadn't, I wouldn't have found those answers finally.
So lower iron, I like this too, was is sometimes a hidden conversation. So this is another nugget that people can explore if they're experiencing these symptoms of low energy or always fatigue or get these energy spurts at opposite times of the day. These are good
Mhm.
nuggets to like do more research on for themselves. Thank you for sharing this.
And the depression symptoms too, the symptoms of depression. A lot of them tie in as well because a lot of times I say, oh, you're going to, if you're sleeping a lot, if you're doing this or that, you have depression. And I'm like, I kind of feel like we kind of need to end depression because it seems like it's more of a symptom than a
Mhm.
diagnosis. Kind of like eczema. I hate that diagnosis. I
Mm,
feel like it's more of a symptom. You have a rash. Why do you have a rash? Let's go figure it out.
that
That's
part.
that's been
Yeah.
my experience is that you can cure these things if you figure out what the root cause is. And so that's how I feel about depression and anxiety. And that's what's been my experience with myself and with my clients. And it seems like more and more of the health community is starting to admit it. It's been in the studies. You can look up the studies that iron is linked to suicides and depression. Thyroid issues are linked to suicides and depression. So why are we diagnosing people with depression when we should be figuring out what's actually going wrong with them because they have this symptom that looks like depression?
Ding, ding, ding. For real.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We can go on and on about this. This depression piece is really and exhaustion is really something. We talked about something earlier, and I like you to mention with the audience here about the medicine types. Um, Conventional versus I forgot
Functional.
what the yeah.
Yeah.
Talk more
Functional
about that.
medicine. Yeah, so conventional medicine, at least in the US, our standard of care is great, especially if you break an arm, if you are going into cardiac arrest. We love it. It works for what it works for. But the standard of practice is if you're not dying, we don't really have a solution for you. If you're dying or something's broken, we have a solution for you. So once you get to the markers, when you're going in each month and getting your testing, or however often you go to your doctors to get tested, and they say everything's fine, everything's great, that means that they're using this marker and you're not on this side or that side of it. You're not too high, you're not too low. But where do they get those numbers from? They're getting those numbers from all the people that came in like you that weren't feeling good. And then they've
Mm,
decided, hey, all the people on this side or this side are really bad, and we need to give them medication or we need to do some type of invasive surgery or something. Well, functional medicine realized that they could help people actually feel good. And so they narrowed down those numbers, usually, depending on what it is, and found the people that actually feel good. And they say, if you're on this side or that side, you don't feel well, and we want to get you in here. And
wow.
that's what I love about functional medicine. It's about being functional. It's about integrating your whole body, getting to the root cause of illnesses, not just putting on band-aids and giving you pills to pop.
My goodness, my goodness. That was great. Thank you so much. When was a time where you used wisdom or a wise choice or someone gave you some great wisdom?
Mm. A time that I used wisdom that I think is very indicative of this whole story is my youngest child. Um, he was a different kind of baby. He was projectile vomiting. He would break out in these strange rashes. And I just had no clue what was going on. And I'm like, what is wrong with this poor child? And I'm like, maybe he's allergic to something. Maybe it's something I'm eating because I was breastfeeding, of course. So I take him to the doctor. They're like, he's too young. Come back, at such and such age, and we'll test him for allergies. Great. Brought him back when he passed that age mark, tested him for allergies. And the doctor's like, he's fine. And I'm like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, he's definitely fine. He doesn't have any allergies. I'm like, well, how, explain this to me. And so they broke down the information that, they have a scale, and from whatever number to whatever number is allergic, everything below that is not allergic. So I'm like, well, can I see it? So I take a look at this thing, and let's say the number is, I don't know, 7 or 8 that you have to be allergic. I don't remember exactly now. He's a teenager. Let's say he was a 5 or a 6 for like bread, dairy, soy, seafood. I'm looking at this and I go, so if he's like a 5 or a 6, which is almost allergic, but not quite
Mhm.
allergic, is it
Mhm.
possible that if I gave him a pizza, for example, which has dairy, wheat, soy, all three of these in it, that he could have an allergic reaction? And the
Right.
doctor said, you're right. I never thought of it that way.
Are you kidding me?
Girl. Wisdom.
That
Just
is
use some
wisdom.
wisdom, people. Do
Woo!
some math. Let's calculate some things and put them together. And so I ended up taking my son off of soy and dairy, and I think it was eggs and seafood for a couple years, and his eczema cleared up. And now he can have a little bit of egg here or there. He can maybe have a shrimp here or there, but I'm not going to give him, you know, salmon and
Yeah.
pizza for dinner. He's going to be itchy. His tongue itches. It's a mess, but he's not allergic, you know.
There you go. There you go. Ooh, that was good wisdom. That was some good wisdom. Your intuition kicked in and you asked the questions and you had to deduct your own reasoning and try it for yourself to see if the itching stopped when you took those out of his diet. And it
Mhm.
did.
It did.
Hello.
And this was before taking care of myself and learning about functional medicine or any of those things. This was just mom intuition, like something's wrong here.
Let's
So,
try this. Let's try that. And then it's like,
yeah,
okay, we found it.
yeah.
Yes. My goodness. So we're running out of time here.
Mhm.
Where in the world can we find you or work with you or get more conversation with you? I'm sure the listening audience would love to have a chat.
Definitely, definitely. You can find me on my website. It's overcomingwithk.com, and it's just the letter K. And on there, there's all kinds of ways to connect with me, including links to all my social media. I do audio rooms live on Fanbase app, and I also do a monthly brunch with moms where we talk about all this great stuff, health and wellness and business.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. Brunches and oh my gosh, that is so cool. And there was something else that you offered too, right?
Oh,
Um,
yes. We didn't really get into the mental fitness part because that's something I've added on to my health coaching recently. And what I have available is if you go to the website, again, overcomingwithk.com slash the letters S and A for saboteur assessment, you can take a free assessment where it'll tell you about some of the things that you're doing to sabotage yourself on a daily basis. And a lot of us don't realize we have these saboteurs that are kicking in with our choices.
mhm. We do. Well,
Yes.
thank you so much again for being with us, and we'll have you again somewhere down
Yes.
the road. I would love to talk more about the mental side, the mental health side. So, but
Yes.
you guys, in the meantime, go to her website. There'll be a link in the description where you can find her and stay connected in the conversation.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So now what we're going to do is go on over to the table, you guys. It is time for the table conversation. And you know what that is, right? At the table segment. This segment is getting you and your family connected and have conversations and have your meals at the table. And when you do that, so many good things happen. I encourage you to email me your stories so it can be possibly read on the broadcast. So, I do have a story to share with you. Anna, she sent in an email to me where you can email your at the table story to JeannaBrownPodcast at gmail.com. Anna says that her at the table experience, she has an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and she started having them eat at the table regularly. And they get so excited, her little ones, to share with her their stories of how the day was with mom. Oh my gosh, that just made me so happy because when you get these practices in early with the little ones, teenagers, adults, they want to share, they can give input, there's engagement going on. And then once they get older, you know what happens? They go from the kitchen table to the boardroom table, and they are prepared. They're not afraid to ask difficult questions. They can hold their own, and it all starts at home. All right, that's at the table. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Jeanna Brown Podcast, Smart Wisdom. It has been a wonderful, wonderful show today. And not only do I appreciate you popping in and seeing this episode, but I would love it if you would check out some of the other episodes, share them with your friends, like the episodes, and subscribe to the channel of Jeanna Brown Podcast Smart Wisdom. There's other links. We talked about mental health, art healing, and other things that can happen that you can get involved in with me and this whole community. So I'm going to say bye for now and thanks for tuning in. Bye for now. 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 Okay, we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.